Let's try this. Hey, there we go. Oh man, they updated Streamlabs. I checked it earlier this morning. We did a little bit of pregame in the VIP session, about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so before the market, and I realized there was an update to Streamlabs on OBS. Every time there's an update, they mess everything up. Anyway, it looks like everything's working. Mic check. I think you guys can hear me all right. Looking good, looking good. All right. Welcome, welcome. I hope you all had a chance to rest up, get ready for the day ahead and all that fun stuff. As per the usual, make sure to read through the morning prep PDF on the right side. Very important to understand everything that is inside there. Just a quick note for you all on the YouTube side before we jump on in. The YouTube broadcast does have between a 5 and 30 second delay, which will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given moment. Good morning. I like the energy. Data? Yes! I like it. I just want to take a second, like we do every day, to thank all of the new members, subscribers, Academy students, VIPs, and everyone in between. Thank you all so much for the support. I'm super excited to have you all on board. Welcome to the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you have a few different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. One of the easiest ways is right here on YouTube. You can check out the join button below the stream, and that gets you access to the extended session room, which continues the morning room with a little bit less delay to the end of the session. And YouTube members also have access to the communities area, where we post all kinds of different chart setups, stock charts, analytics, and more. Of course, every member gains access to our own Discord chat server. There we go, sounding like a pirate again. Or Mr. Krabs. And you get the awesome badge next to your name as well here on YouTube to show your support. Plus, it just looks cool. So, if you want to take a massive step further in understanding our trading approach and what it is that we are doing every day in the room, gotta warm my lips up or something here. Look no further than the Day Trading Academy. This is where you can learn how we do everything. But listen, this isn't a small little PDF guide that you're going to finish in an afternoon, all right? We do have the Quick Start course, which will get you going. But really, to dig in like the Academy does, you're looking at 19 plus hours of video course material. Along with the course, we have homework, study guides along the way, just to really make sure that you're understanding what's going on while you're navigating the course, which I review personally. And you also get the DTA upgrade discount too when you're ready to go up to VIP. And that's going to be the top floor, the executive suite. That's where you're going to find the VIPs hanging out. And VIPs have permanent access to everything that is SSFTG. The Day Trading Academy, private Discord chat, future updates, new strategies, monthly webinars, one-on-one access, and everything else. It all comes as part of the package. VIPs gain access to the fully dedicated, non-delayed stream. That's what we were talking about, where I was doing a little bit of pregame this morning. That's part of that. The non-delayed stream for the entire session, meaning that they are on the fastest connection that you can get without any delays from start to finish. Plus, they get a little bit extra in the morning sometimes here. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're one of the VIP vets over on the dedicated stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside of me today, analyzing these crazy markets of ours. Let's take a look at some news, some charts, get things going here. Don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you on the Major 7. NASDAQ, S&P, Gold, Crude, Euro, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. It's a race every time. I like how I didn't stumble on that one. I can't say my normal morning shtick, but I can just blast through that, no problem, right? Never fails. Anyway, as far as the news calendar is concerned, we really don't have anything. It is Tuesday, so we have the API weekly crude oil stocks, which will give us an idea of what to expect for tomorrow's inventories, but I mean, all things considered, we really don't have anything happening on the news calendar. So that'll make it a little bit easier. Get that out of the way. Start off with the S&P and take a look from here. From this perspective, we're still stuck. It hasn't gone anywhere. As far as the move from the bottom, if we're looking at it, obviously there's a POC up here, but looking at the way that this is sort of, for lack of better words, correcting, I don't even really know that I want to call it a range per se, because it's kind of constricting, but with higher highs. It's so narrow that I can't even draw it up. We've got higher highs and higher lows, and they are kind of rolling this forward. So with this continuation to the upside, hey, good morning, Stephen. Welcome. Everyone else so far, welcome, welcome. We've got this continuation to the upside where, Ladislav, welcome. We've got the POC at 91.25, and they tried to break underneath it. This may be a bear flag, right? Maybe. But they've got to start it now, right? This is where they have to hit the gas pedal, and this would be the first time that they've actually made a major swing low. I find it kind of doubtable, you know what I mean? Like, there's just too much support. Even if it does actually happen, it's more likely going to be a two-legged correction lower, which is then just going to get snapped right back up. My one concern is that if they can't find support here, how's it going, Zach? If we roll through this, then I mean the bottom's kind of out until where? Like what? 43.20? The next big volume node is down here, and yeah, around 43.20. So it's either they hold it at 65.70 or the bottom drops out and there's nothing left to hold it, you know. That's a little bit of a concern. This is where the sellers have to prove it. If they are going to take over for more than what they've been able to do so far, this is the launching pad. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it going though. We'll see. Over on gold, we've got that breakout to the upside, which did have new major swing highs, and the what? Let's try that again. From the low. Actually, you know what? This is all still a developing POC from back here. Let's go all the way across. Oh man, they did get the nice pullback at 1808.6, and now we have another higher low. I mean, this is doing everything that you wanted to see. And remember what we were talking about before. Not only are we in a zone of major interest, 1808.6. That's the previous POC that is, well, I say previous. It's still technically developing in terms of the bigger perspective. But we know that the larger on the 60-minute, the daily, is also trying to rotate back up from a huge drive down. So we've got a lot of reasons to believe that this could potentially be the launching pad for long-term swings. This is also a nice spot for the short term. I mean, if you look at 1808.6, just putting it underneath the lows, that still allows for, I mean, close enough to a 2-to-1. It would be nice to get it a little bit lower, I guess, down in the like 1807s. Beggars can't be choosers, right? We got to take what the market will give us. And with this zone and demonstrating this amount of support, we might also want to pay attention to the narrower perspective. And, well, lo and behold, 1813.3 is the POC that we're trying to leave behind there. There's a lot of things that are saying gold is really trying to make a strong rotation to the upside. Now, if like I said, if these zones fail, then there's not really much to hold it until down in like the 1800s back to the range lows. So, do or die, gold. Nice spot. Really nice spot. Really, really nice spot. Love this zone. On crude oil, golly, jeez. Wow, this thing's getting slammed right now. The initial move to the downside, I'm not even going to pay attention to the before stuff here. This original drive down, wave 1 into 2, this is something that will occur at times where you can see this is really disgusting inside here. It's almost like wave 1 ended here. Wave 2 was all of this disgusting gross back and forth. To me, this would tell me that wave 2 was kind of nasty, but not to necessarily, again, it's not a rule, but to expect that wave 4 should be quick and decisive. In this case, they pulled back ABCD straight up, quick and decisive, man. Golly, that thing just blasted the lows off of this thing. Wow. All the way down. 1-to-1 move on the initial drive. Huge drive lower. Now, in terms of this blow-off move down, where we are is a bit of a concern because, well, the market doesn't tend to like hanging out in here. It usually rushes. Well, we're right inside the middle of this. This could very easily start slipping away from the bulls, and all of a sudden we're back down to the lows. So we've got to kind of ask ourselves, what could crude oil be trying to get? You know, what did they leave behind? If we go from the bottom to the top, all the way up here on the impulse, we know that they left behind their 71.91 way up here. How is that responding in terms of current price action on the move down? If we measure to actual risk, oh, well, gotcha. Okay, so we see that traders are scalping. They took their initial scalp targets. How do we know? Well, that's pretty good proof, I would say. Ding! Right? Got it. So as far as the support goes, well, that was one of the biggest reasons for the amount of support that came in here, not to mention that that's also the previous low. What better spot for them to take profit? It makes perfect sense. So we have this quick ABCD corrective phase down and then blam, right back to the downside, which it's still inside of. Just because we've created a low that's 1-to-1 doesn't mean it can't go 1-6-1-8, right? It doesn't mean that it can't drive a lot further down. And actually, if we look at that from a realistic perspective, that would fit a lot better. That would come back to that major support in the 67s. And that would also be a fear drop on the lows. API today will give us a bit of a better idea in terms of what to expect. But very interesting in that we had that scalper's target create the supportive bounce. The next target is going to be well, you'd think 1-to-1, but most traders typically aren't looking for 1-to-1s. We are on top of that right now. The next one is going to be a 2-to-1, which, I mean, really? Like, how many things do you want lining up in the exact same spot, right? I mean, it's the 2-to-1 based off the POC. And that ABCD was a break-even retest of 71.91 on the backside of the POC. I mean, there's so many things that are happening right here. It's ludicrous on crude. Nothing saying that this market has any intention of stopping right now. We are at a 1-to-1 move down, which is nice. Short-term profit taking maybe, but there's some serious downside objectives here. Looking on the initial rally down, I mean, oops. The 1-6-1-8's a little bit further at 66. So, I mean, there may be some slightly more extended targets, I guess. But this thing's crazy. Crude oil, short it. Right? I mean, God. Wait for a pullback, maybe. On the euro, we've got the continuation of the upside, which this is one of probably the most obvious wedges I've ever seen in my life. This is ridiculous. You don't even need the lines. Like, it's right there. Bingo bango. Okay, easy peasy. Now, when we have this perfect of a wedge, it does appear as though we're starting to transition. And this is a very common occurrence where we start holding the inside swing. And when you start noticing that, when we have another lower high, yes, that is a third lower high. That's a bummer. That's a real bummer. But all things considered, this does sometimes, in and of itself, create a new wedge top that the bulls can use as a breakout point. So not all hope is lost yet, right? This still looks very nice, very strong to the upside for the euro. The larger pullback still at 8,100, I believe, at the POC. So, I mean, the bulls have a shot here. If it wants to pull back, 8,100 still the zone of interest. Right here looks pretty good. I mean, maybe a false break underneath the lows, continuation back up. There's a lot of things that they might want to do here in terms of volume. Going from left to right on the top, we've got, oh, that sucks. 1.18935 right in the middle. Lovely. Man, that's awful. How about from the lows? Do they give us anything better? Helps if I put it in the right place. No, not really. That's down at 18,070. So this is stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's either they go now or they begin failing, and we're probably going down to 18,070. So it's this a little bit tough for the euro. We'll have to wait and see what they want to do. Bitcoin continuing on its way to the downside, looking like a nice little spike and channel formation that's trying to break lower. Could realistically just be creating a slightly wider spike and channel. It fits. As long as that's in the way, well, I'm not going to have to worry about too much. And I'm not going to draw the POC on there. I know. It's not going to happen. Don't need to crash the charts today. But it would be interesting to see where they're accumulating, because if you look at this from a pullback perspective, the last two major swings is a very common area where traders start building in stops underneath the last one, trying to get a 2-to-1 or more back to the upside. So this is a major swing launch pad if they start gearing up around the 38,000s, 38,500s. Might have to wait for it to break a little bit further up. The upside objective's back to 42.5, maybe 43. Looks nice. On Ethereum, possible bear flag. Hard to ignore that one. It looks like a nice little ABCD corrective phase, which overreached itself a bit, but now we're correcting back and holding. Very likely, again, as long as it stays above that area and doesn't break back down, we should be good for a launching pad to the upside. low probability, because obviously we're telling the market, hey, you can go this far in my favor, but I'm not interested if you go this far against me. When they're lopsided, just based on throwing darts at a board, you're more likely going to be less probable anyway. Given the context, I think it's pretty good to at least put the wind in the sails. It would be nicer if this was forming a bit lower, in all honesty. I would really like to see Ethereum maybe put in a bottom down in like the 2350s, 2375s. That would be way nicer. That said, we might be developing a new low, which could be coming in the 2400s. There's a lot of ways that they can play this. I'm just not convinced yet. Gold looks absolutely incredible. More from a larger swing perspective, but it's there. I'm unable to hear you. My audio is working fine. This is on the VIP side. Are you guys are able to hear me? I can see the microphone moving. Yes. Okay. Okay. Cool. What? We've got 13 and a half minutes left. Give me 1 second here. Bit of troubleshooting here. I know my luck, it's probably just like the headphones coming out a little bit or something, you know. All right, looking at the daily perspective, we are doing exactly what we expected to be doing. To be fair, this it's perfect, right? I mean, this is what technical analysis is all about. It's unfortunate that it's giving us this sideways range, but again, we were expecting this. This sideways range is what we were talking about after this big bear bar. One of two things is going to happen after that bear bar. It either goes sideways for a week or two, maybe even a month, or it really starts to fire and this thing goes collapsing to the downside. There are some obvious things, if it does start collapsing, that I'd be interested in, but we're not seeing that. And given that we didn't see that follow through, the bear bar into bull bar tells us probably range bound. The lows of this major daily bar, which is around 775 or so, give or take, that's going to be a major zone of interest. And I want to make sure I get the exact level. So let me make sure snap mode is on. Boom. 74.25. That's going to be the big one that we're going to want to pay attention to here. I'll make that in purple. And a thickness of 10, so it's the most obvious thing on the planet. And yes, okay. We've got that one, and then the next one is going to be there, 131.50. Oops. The top and bottom of that daily bar are going to continue to be perpetual support and resistance until proven otherwise. That's usually the case, basically at all times. Still going sideways. Not anticipating any of these to actually trigger anything or actually follow through with anything, but the bulls do have a slight advantage, obviously. Looking at the 15-minute perspective, yesterday we were talking about how the POC may want to creep up, and a pullback down to the 6-1 was at 14,905. So far we haven't had that, but we did have the POC shift up. It went to a perfect 50% pullback. I mean, as far as all things are concerned, that's not bad, and the POC is starting to climb up. If the market can begin to rally above probably the 15,000s, that would be a good seal of the deal, if you will, for a continuation back up to try to grab the highs, really. We're just on that launching pad still. Could also be part of a bear cycle down. I mean, we really didn't have a secondary port. Well, I mean, they kind of did, didn't they? we'll see. The 15-minute is looking very interesting, though. The volume is in a really awkward spot, but they're creeping it up from down in the lows. This is going to be a big zone of interest anyway. If we're going from the bottom to the top, just the impulse first. Just the impulse first. Yikes! 15,100, that POC up on the top. We missed it here. They really missed it over here. 3 major lower highs. I mean, again, if the bulls don't take this, they're screwed. That's really what it comes down to. It's either they do it or it's over. I just don't see this ending any other way. I mean, if they are going to dive down and get a trap, what are they going to trap? The major low? That's way the heck down here. I mean, maybe that's the case, but do I want to be buying here and holding until here? No. Not interested, thanks. Would be nice to have something a bit more decisive, that's for sure. I believe if we modify this all the way to the end, that POC will be at 85. Yes, it is. So that's why I'm not really measuring it. The impulse has that one all the way up to the highs at the 100s, but the overall POC, if I were to go all the way left to right, is already at 985. So no difference. All right. Man, maybe on the launching pad. We'll see. All things considered here, we've got a continuation which technically didn't start until... Come on, which candle is it here? That bear bar right there is the beginning of the session. Okay. So as far as where the market has gone from the beginning of things, really haven't done a whole lot. You know, this isn't looking too great. It just looks like the pattern keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Started with a small move up, a little bit of a bigger move down, a little bit of a bigger move up, and then a little bit of a bigger move down, and then a little bit of a bigger move up. Now we're starting to see that transition away, and we can see that transition point likely took place right there. A lot of shorts were probably in this trying to get that continuation down, and they're getting dumped on. Now, let's see where those shorts could be in the short term. Oh, geez, okay. Maybe not. Looks like they accumulated a little bit around the 68 quarters, but not enough to shift the POC. That's interesting. Looking from a cycle perspective, because all things considered, from the low, we do have a new high, and so far haven't broken down to a new low. We have to give at least a little bit of credit to the bulls. We're cycling off of an L4, climbed up to an L3, looking at these lows on that wedge, and now we're breaking higher into an L1. So, I mean, they're getting a good attempt. A strong enough breakaway above the highs. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to see those L1s sticking it in. We just have to see that follow through. I can't believe there's no POC in here. Oh, there is. Okay. There we go. Why wasn't that showing up before? Was I just not drawing it right? Okay, well. Good old NinjaTrader strikes again. 968 hovering around that area was the average zone of interest. And we can see that's, generally speaking, it makes sense. We haven't broken a new high yet. Stretching this all the way across, it's up at 95. Lordy. Is this a measured move? No. Okay. We haven't gotten a measured move correction back either. This might not be done going range bound yet. Oh, geez. Oh, man. You zoom out just a little bit and you're like, well, I did want to be a buyer, but maybe on a pullback. From a corrective phasing perspective, the last largest pullback was this move here. The other ones were reversals. So as far as that's concerned, they've kind of broken through that. The only other one would be this, which would be like the largest point. And man, sure enough, they did find a reversal off that. It's funny how those levels come back and haunt the market. Break above those highs. Everything needs a break above the highs. That's kind of what we're stuck on right now. And they slam the POC right there. Wow. All right. Well, we got 3.5 minutes until the open. Give me 1 second. Be right back. All right. And here we sit. 928 is going to be the next major zone of interest. That's the final drop dead for modifications on at the open orders. See what they're able to get going here. Gold is starting to pull back to that 13.3 area. Let's zoom in. 1 minute chart here. Okay. $15.2 is where the sellers have tried so far on the 1 minute. Trying to get something going from that perspective. Looking at the larger zone, which is a little bit further down, you can just see it at the bottom of the screen there, right there. That's the POC that gold is hunting for, but we're bouncing a bit ahead of it. And this bounce up is going to be, a pretty reasonable expectation for bulls to continue, but I got to see the sellers get out of the way first. I say sellers because this POC is building above the previous range highs, and it would make sense that that would be sellers. It would also make sense that there's a lot of sell stops that got hit up there. Just a lot of volume. So I got to see what they're doing with that information now. So far, they're not doing anything. They're just kind of wedging. One minute to go. Getting a small little pullback here. We're going into the open right around the corner, but again, we are kind of creating a relatively large bullish bias. $20 seconds to go. So far, very low volume. That's going to change pretty quickly, though. Would love a quick little snap down into like the lower 80s, not 85. The POC's there. Obviously, buyers are coming in off of it, but That's not the pattern that I was looking for. Now that does give us a confirmed POC to work with. And L2 is what I'm waiting for. Nice dive down into that L2. Down into the L3. Wow, down to an L4 as well. Big cycle to the downside. Looking to see this, I mean, we do have a nice bounce off of L4. That was a very obvious response off of break even that it seems like traders may have taken. This slide to the downside will very likely have taken traders by surprise, but again, we know the bullish context here. This slide to the downside kind of makes sense if sellers or buyers are trying to accumulate orders. It makes a lot of sense to create a spook you kind of move. L5 continuation down. That doesn't really do a ton for my average, but again, looking for the continuation for movement back up. I still like this slide down for the potential. It makes a lot of sense. What better way to accumulate a ton of contracts than to scare the crap out of people? Get them to sell all of their contracts to you. It doesn't mean it has to reverse right now, right? But as long as we stay above the settlement price, I mean, the previous low is at 942. We know this major zone is around here. Back down to settlement. I would like to do a little bit of work on my average here, given the risk profile, but this bounce off of settlement and the fact that they raced down there, I still like the way that this looks. I've got to utilize a little bit of the flexibility to get the average down a bit further, though. There we go. And then the larger 2-to-1 is still up there in the 86s. Brought my average down to a more logical location, but still might have to work on it a little bit. 2-to-1 is now at the top of L1. It's still inside the swing. Still fine. Looking at location-wise, we're hovering around those 85s. Again, the POC's been bouncing back and forth, so being underneath it right now doesn't necessarily concern me too much. I think this is meant to scare people. But it doesn't mean that we can hold on with hope. We still have to manage it with proper headset. Or headspace, rather, not headset. Nice continuation to the upside. Let's see if they can keep this movement going now. Very fast little snapback here for bulls to reload just a little bit. Market still pulling down a little bit further. Now, this breakaway momentum, again, if they're looking for anything, it would make sense now that they would be looking for, I mean, the only other impulse leg would be here. I'll reduce a little bit mildly above break even because it doesn't do anything for my average anyway. My average is in round about the same spot regardless. It doesn't make sense to hold on to excess risk if it doesn't benefit me. Bulls are still trying to transition up, and none of these really do a whole lot for the average yet. They're still hitting these scalping objectives, but they're not reaching out for the 2-to-1, getting the breakaway move quite yet. I tried hitting cancel. It jumped back on me. I was going to cancel the exit on that one, but all right. Well, I'll take that one to compensate for. That kind of sucked, though. I hit sell ask when it was at the top, and I saw it jerk back. I didn't quite get filled yet, so I went to cancel it, and it filled it right when I was going to cancel it. Oh, well. Bulls trying to maintain pressure above the settlement price. Nice little pullback there. Wow. More bouncing, just hovering, not really doing much. We don't have any news today. The only thing that we really have is 940, or, well, I mean, there's some minor stuff, I guess, but that's really about it. Nice continuation to the upside. There we go. We're through 2-to-1 already, but how about 3-to-1? Where's that at? 3-to-1's quite a bit further up there. As far as the current cycle, we're trying to create a micro 5-wave. Which is looking good. This POC is my concern around these 85s. More continuation up. Tapping the 88s. Pretty heavy rejection down. I'm going to jump ship. That may just be a washout for bulls to reload, but I'm not going to take the chance and give this whole trade back. It's not worth that. No thanks. If it's going to pull back, I'd rather reload on a deeper pullback then. Yeah, I think everybody kind of shared the same mindset. Like, nah. Well, not quite a 3-to-1, but around there. Bulls looking for more continuation to the upside. Now that we have a second here, let's go to the 5 minutes, see what's going on. We're a little bit behind schedule on that. The first 5 POC was at 70. Since then, it's down at 14,960. Some pretty nice pullback momentum around this 68. I'm going to look to at least grab a single for a continuation to the upside. This is looking really nice for a potential lift. Nice movement. Yep, I'll take that. Right up to a scalper's objective. I'm not looking for anything too crazy because I have a really bad entry. I would have much preferred to have an entry closer to 68, but that's a really, really nice pullback for excess confirmation. I like it. More follow through. Shorts who are potentially stuck on 968 trying to get it to go lower are realizing they are massively underwater right now and jumping ship fast. Big blow off move to the upside. Wish I would have been able to get more than one. Oh well. Shorts getting squeezed. Oh, yeah, for sure. It still ended up being a really good trade. Nothing groundbreaking or anything, but for what it was. On the S&P, let's see here. Guess it doesn't really change. Really? 90 quarter, huh? Must be. Wow. Okay. Now at 83. Market is forcing people to have to buy very high. Do you think we get over 15K here? I think it makes sense. Yeah, all the shorts are getting squeezed. It makes perfect sense for them to get the rally back to the upside. Market's still just kind of hovering, not really doing a ton of anything up here. And here it sits. What happened? 985, there was a lot of volume that came in on the 985s, but now we just blasted through that. Whoa! Howdy ho there, neighborino. Now, the question is this dip back nothing more than a larger break even? That would still be at 68. They have shifted it up, though, 8150. The market is just pulsing higher. Ooh, POC shifting a little bit there. Shifting a little bit more. A lot of sellers maybe stopping out. Buyers buying in. I mean, there's like no remorse. It's super. They've got the herky jerkus. We've got 15,000 around the corner. There's the break. Quick snap back down towards those 93s. They did leave that behind, but and the S&P is just plotting bear bars. Pay no mind. More continuation up. Maybe the S&P wants to play some catch up. I mean, we're kind of right back down to where that low was. The low is technically 77.25, but as far as the overall market structure is concerned, from the low with a continuation up, we have the to the tick L3 with a rotation higher on another L3 and then an L2. They almost got a rep L3. That doesn't happen very often. We've got a continuation up with the L2. Now we're seeing L1. We're back to L1. They're trying to get this thing to really creep forward and go. Kind of difficult to see the wedge they're forming here. POC shifting down on the S&P. The S&P just keeps going down. There's no candle gaps though. Interestingly enough. Still feels like a trap. Gold on the... wasn't the POC lower? Did they shift the POC up? They shifted the POC up on this pullback. Those rotten buggers. Wow. I didn't see that. Okay. Look at the difference between the S&P and the Nasdaq right now. They're like pure 100% opposites. Market displaying a little bit of a deeper pullback this time around, which would make sense. Probably trying to churn back to something with a little bit more logic deeper down. The zone of interest would be like around the... I wouldn't mind around the 8150s, but they really feel like they're trying to get underneath that last swing low, underneath the 75s. And with this strong of a breakaway move, you can also see the microcycle of a 5-wave structure. So do I really want to be trying to buy while we're still on wave 3? It just doesn't make any sense. This is going to be the trap spot, though. Nice jump to the downside. Volume definitely stacking up down here. Yep. But again, it doesn't make sense to be a buyer on the third. Underneath this swing low at around the 65s might have some bounce. Yeah, it's already gone. Jeez. Back to the 5-minute POC at 70. Although if we look at that POC extended further forward, we're kind of coming back to it with a bullish intent at 968 with 4 minutes left on this candle. This move down could be very deceptive in what it's trying to do. Back to settlement. Got wave 1, 2, 3. Jeez. They're working on 4 right now, this small, shallow little correction. Wave 2 was nice and decisive. Wave 4 probably going to be a mess. Remember, though, we're approaching this from a bullish perspective, so if this starts getting carried away too much from the bull's side, they might not be able to complete this micro 5-wave cycle down. He says as a giant bear bar plots back to the lows. Fair enough, NASDAQ, all right. Look for the continuation off of this area on the completion of the micro 5-wave cycle, although it's early, so maintaining shallower risk. If we zoom out here, this zone is kind of utilizing the previous swings around the 30 halves or so. There you go. Now you can see them. Initially, maybe, you know, around there, but 46 quarter is going to be the next zone of interest. Nice little dip lower. And to zoom out to see the larger area there. The S&P is still extending to the downside. Wow, these candles are just showing up out of nowhere. I tried getting a fill around the scalper's objective, but I didn't get a jump up there. That wick just showed up on that candle. All right, I'm going to jump ship here. What the heck was that about? I tried, but that price action right inside. Did you see how quick that showed up? Well, it would have been a nice scalper's objective on that one, but I didn't get filled anywhere near that. For me, the ES is too bearish to be long the NASDAQ at the moment. I would partially agree, but at the same time, with this market structure that we've got, this is the do or die zone. We have to approach this with a low probability situation, or sorry, mentality. I'm not approaching this with a, like, okay, I'm getting in here and I'm expecting it to, you know, do something like this for a while and then go back up all the way up here. I can't, if I'm going to be buying here, that doesn't make sense to use this small of a stop. From that perspective, you're very obviously low probability, high reward, which would, I mean, yeah, not expecting it to stick around. Along the way, though, while I'm building into these types of moves, I love scalping out at scalpers' objectives just to ensure that we can lock in a little bit of something and to also increase the flexibility. Which is why I'm not long right now. Doesn't mean we couldn't utilize a small bounce, but now that we're breaking away through the lows and we're starting to really churn down, geez, oh Pete, we've got this impulse leg right there, which so far we still haven't measured. I mean, technically speaking, they did here, but I kind of like to see these parabolic moves measure themselves out. Not quite there yet. We got above 15K. It put the POC at 15K. Gotta love that. As far as the wider POC now on the 5-minute transition, 14,960 was the zone. We're underneath it pretty aggressively. Now they've lost it. That was the last straw. The bulls don't really have a reason to be long anymore. Not unless they're looking way out here on a bigger perspective, and even then, I just don't see it. The next zone really doesn't fall into the 850s. So, I don't know. That's buying at 920 with stops potentially down to the 850s. Nah. I had to wait for something a little bit better now. On the S&P from the larger perspective, oop, no, don't move the POC. Go back. Stupid thing. This is the transition down. Now remember, look where we are. Swing longs, option longs, calls, out of the monies, etc. They're long. And they are getting long. This is the area where they can buy in because just like we were talking about in the NASDAQ. Fantastic zone for reduced risk, massive reward potential. That's why I like options here because I don't really want to be holding on to this. I'm more of a scalpers on the S&P side of things, but this is a major zone from that perspective. It also does fit pretty nicely with the bear ABCD down, which just hit. Be nice to see it get back above 91 quarter for later entries, but this is a big, big zone. Let her fall. I like it. Continuation to the downside now, even though they did have a micro 5-wave cycle lower, which we're probably more in the corrective phase of at the moment. This could also still be phasing into what we were talking about earlier. It's the same thing the market's been doing. New high, new low, new high, new low. New high, wiggled around a little bit. Tried making a new low, couldn't quite do it, got the new high, and now we're back down to a new low again. $14,920 bottom weighted POC down here. Ooh, lordy. It's still super early for me to want to be a buyer down here now, given all the perpetual failures. But this is a big zone, just remember. Sellers with a bear engulfing candle back to the downside again. They haven't even been able to make it back to like an L1. Looking on all of the other flips just to see how they responded, at least ones that had more price action. There usually was a bit of responsiveness off of the L1 to L2 range. They couldn't quite get there, though. Close, maybe not close enough. Now we're down into major measured move territory from the impulse perspective. If they start breaking through this, we could be looking for a third. But there's not much support anymore. There's nothing really, like we were talking about, until what, like the 50s? Hey, we might get that 6-1 yet. Hey, they got it. It's right there. Ding, ding, ding. They got the 6-1. Oh boy, swings are definitely going to be looking to build up down here, but no proof yet on the shorter term. Other than completing some major downside objectives. Nice job, Steven. Ace, great work there too. Yeah, you'll get there. Don't worry about it right now. I feel you. Every time I only get one contract on the table, that's when the thing takes off on me. It never fails. I don't want to machine gun the button on the first pullback, you know what I mean? That can get dangerous. First correction back up. We are after 10 o'clock. So let's get those last questions in. We'll transition over to the members side of things and finish off the morning. What a crazy bounce. Surprisingly, the POC still hasn't shifted on the ES. Do I have it drawn right, though? Hang on. Let me extend it further. Okay. Final thoughts or views on the S&P? I mean, they're finally this is the first time that they've pulled back this entire drive down. The big breakaway that really took place was underneath the lows. And now the one thing that they haven't been doing, they're doing now, right? We've got candle gaps. So they're demonstrating that there's still perpetual strength. Some of these are obviously filled in now. If we go to the last candle gap, that one filled in. Man, they left that one way out there. So there's still another candle gap looking for objectives down to 64. They still have potential to the downside. And then I see the other question, but I'm going to answer that when we move over to the extended. So let me wrap up the YouTube side of things here. I think we're good, though. All right. Like always, if I miss any questions or anything, feel free to shoot those to me via email, jhb@ssftg.com. Get those covered for you from there. Otherwise, though, enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you had a great trading morning, and we will see you on the YouTube side tomorrow. For the rest of you, just hang out with me for a second. I'll get everything ready, and then we'll rock and roll over there. Have a great one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.